Okay, so I have had a couple personal requests from people that I don't know on the internet to explain myself with my prior DMT experience, and rightfully so. It was rather outrageous and mental, as John O'Hara would describe it, and I agree. It really took me for a loop. I guess me and my friend talked about it afterwards, but we were comparing. Well, it was pretty much just me asking and bombarding him with questions, but I didn't really. I was trying to figure out his experience, and I didn't really do a whole lot of explaining of mine. So, before we smoked the DMT, he offered me, I was really nervous, and he was a little nervous, and so he offered me some drinks to calm my nerves, and I had 3 drinks of scotch, which equated to about 6 shots of scotch. And I'm kind of a lightweight because I don't drink alcohol all the time. I don't drink very much alcohol, so I'm not what you call a functional alcoholic, so it affects me more. And it did calm my nerves, but as soon as we smoked the DMT, I felt like I was being disintegrated, like physically, and I wasn't sure what happened. All I knew is that my friend Blair was involved in what was happening, and I felt like I willingly, like, he tricked me, and I willingly went through on something that I wouldn't have willingly done had I known. So I thought that Blair tricked me into doing something for, like he was doing an experiment on me or something, or like doing, I don't know what his intentions were. All I knew was that I was like, what the fuck, man, like, what did you do to me, basically? And I guess I felt this way for like 3 minutes, no, maybe 4. And it wasn't until after like 4 or so minutes that I was like, oh yeah, we smoked DMT, okay. This was me who caused this. Every other time I've been aware, I've known, like, what I did, I was aware, but this is the only time that I've had alcohol in my system, and that I've did it at the exact same time with my friend. So that probably played a role, but I physically felt like I was being disintegrated, like, my body was, like, I didn't weigh anything, like I was vanishing, basically, physically, and mentally. I had this rush of memories that didn't actually happen. And the most frustrating part about that is I don't remember any of them. I remember coming out of it and specifically remembering memories that didn't happen in this, like, real life that I exist in, but were in my memory, like solid memories, like they were from a dream or a past life or something that I had otherwise completely forgotten. But they were there, and I specifically remember being able to siphon through them and be able to tell that they were from different dreams or different past lives, or just maybe I was just completely mental and those memories just never existed, and somehow smoking DMT made my brain think that I had all these memories from other times in the past, and it was really freaking me out because I was, like, completely lost. I didn't know, like who I was. I shortly after coming out of it, I was like, you know, this was exactly like in Terminator 2 when the T-1000 is in the molten steel, when he's like going through all the identities of himself. He ciphers through before he like burns to death in the molten steel. He ciphers through all the characters that he played in the movie, all the people that he'd taken the form of. And that's pretty much exactly how I felt. Like, I physically felt like I was being disintegrated. And mentally, I didn't know what identity I had. Somehow, these other memories took the primary attention of my psychological being, and then, like, as soon as the DMT wore off, it's like all the other memories just, like, caved in over them. Kind of like if you were to build, like, a plastic cylinder and stick both the ends of the cylinder are open, and stand it up. It's like a 3-foot tall cylinder made out of plastic. And then around the cylinder, fill it with mud or cement. So all the way up to the brim. So in the center of the tube of the cylinder is hollow, but around the outsides is filled with mud. And then take the cylinder and just pull it straight up really, really fast out of the mud. And then the mud just comes rushing in, like, to fill in where the cylinder was immediately. That's kind of how it was with my memories. Like, as soon as the DMT wore off, the memories of my current identity as Jason Haynes in my current dimension that I'm in right now, all those memories just flooded in like the mud, and completely covered, like, the stuff that I was running through my mind earlier. And it really pissed me off, because I thought, like, fucking hell, like, what were those? There was a lot of them, a lot of fucking memories that I had that were really particular, but were also just things that were just, like, mundane, but for certain. Like, I have memories of, like, walking in, and I'm talking about real memories in this dimension, things that I remember. I remember walking into an automatic door, head first. The doors at a King Soopers didn't move out of the way. The automatic doors are supposed to move out of the way, and I just walked right into it. I remember, like, walking across a railing, across a bridge, where if I would have fallen, I would have gotten seriously hurt, going across the South Platte River. So they're just memories like that. Just memories that are just like, why the fuck are those memories, like, being thought? Like, and that's kind of the way it goes with memories of this dimension. It's like, why does my mind, like, remember these things at these times? It's like such random chaos, the mind is. And the DMT just, like, my mind is already random chaos in the first place. When I think back on my life, it doesn't, there's, like, no theme to the memories. They're just memories like that. Just like, I remember one time walking across a stream, and I was carrying a big boulder, like a 50-pound boulder, because I was afraid of being swept away, and the water was waist deep, to get to the other side. So just a whole bunch of, I remember playing Archon with Ryan O'Dell, and I selected his guy, and he's like, Stay Puft versus Fatty, and that's what he said. And I remember a lot of what people say, but anyways, I'm kind of bird walking. I was staring at the ceiling, and the ceiling had these, it reminded me of the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey, what I saw in the ceiling. It looked like it was an acoustic ceiling, and it looked like there were islands there, but the colors were like orange and purple and just really, really like what the fuck colors. It was otherwise a white ceiling, but there was these colors and there was these patterns. The patterns were they looked like symbols. They looked like Aztec symbols. They were like symmetrical. They look like letters of some kind in some language. That's the best I could describe it. That's not exactly it. It's kind of hard to describe but yeah, the ceiling looked like an ocean of colors. And that's when I was thinking about all those memories, and that probably only lasted for like 2.5 minutes that I was doing that, until I sat up and I looked at my friend Blair's face, and his face started smearing to the left and the right, like he was looking at me, and I guess you could say it was trail. Well, it wasn't exactly trails like when you're on acid, because acid trails you can see through, like they're transparent. Yeah, so it wasn't like that, because these weren't transparent. They were like full-on smears. His face was like dividing off to the left and the right, and his face was like getting wider and wider and wider. And then he closed his eyes. And I guess I took it the wrong way, because I was looking into his eyes, and I was like looking at an aspect of him, of Blair, that I'd never actually like thought before. Like, I've looked at Blair so many times, and I've made eye contact with him a whole bunch of times, but I've never actually seen him in that perspective, and it totally changed my perspective when he closed his eyes. And how could I? So it's what else was there? I mean, I'm kind of just going through these, like shuffling right through them, but there's a whole lot more than what I'm saying to each thing. That it's just trying to describe a DMT trip is, even if I sat down and thought all day, like I'm going to write the most perfect, best way that I could write the words to articulate what I want to say, and then read it, that's probably a good idea. Maybe I should have done that instead of just played by ear. But anyways, even if I did that, it wouldn't do it justice. Like, trying to, for anybody that I'm describing this to be able to understand what the fuck I'm talking about, other than the way I felt was the most in my face thing about it. My body, the best I could describe it is it feels like you're being pumped full of electricity, and it's disintegrating you, but the electricity doesn't physically hurt like real electricity. It's like a different kind of electricity. It's like maybe like you're being pumped full of chi, or pumped full of energy. It's like really where the rubber meets the road on like all points of your life. It's like it feels like everything in your life has come to this point. And this isn't exclusive. This has been basically positively indicative of and exclusively concordant with every other one of my DMT trips, but as far as explaining it to anybody, it's not demonstrable. I mean, you can't get to the bottom of, I guess the only way it could be demonstrable is for other people to do it and go through what I went through and be like, okay, yeah, it's verifiable, but that's another thing. You can't possibly know if somebody else, when they smoke DMT, is going through the same kind of experience you are. I figured after I watched the video again of us smoking, I realized that he blew his hit out, and I probably held mine in like a little bit more than twice as long. He blew his head out, and of course there was a girl standing in the way. You can hear him in the video if you listen closely blowing the hit out, but the girl's arm is barely in the way to be able to see the smoke come out. And that was my bad, because I pretty much told him everything else that was important except for holding your hit down at least for 12 seconds, because the effect of a DMT trip, it's not like a cigarette or like smoking weed. You have to hold that hit down. It's more like salvia divinorum, where the longer you hold your hit down, the stronger the effect. And we melted $40 worth of DMT. Each of us melted $20 worth. So it's the equivalent, if you were to be smoking it through a pipe, it'd be the equivalent of 3 hits. One after the other, because we smoked it through a tin-foot tube, just a really big, dense tube of smoke, and breathe it in all at once. So it's basically a much stronger way of getting the effect than smoking it with through a pipe. And he was coughing during the inhalation, and I didn't cough at all, and that probably weakened it a little bit, because he handled it a lot better than I did, and I think that it was largely through, and because he didn't hold his hit down nearly as long, and he was coughing during the inhalation. But yeah, as far as... See, you know it's coming before you do it. It's like, okay, I already have smoked DMT. I know, basically, or I think I know what to expect, but then when I do it, it still, like, takes me by a huge surprise. It's just like, man, not even previous DMT experiences under my belt in my memory bank can prepare me for the next one. It happens like that every time. It's just so, it's so, oh wow, I've forgotten in the meantime how insane this experience really is. It's like, I know it's a really insane experience, but when I'm doing it, when I'm in the experience, it's like, wow, I have truly forgotten how fucking drastic this experience is. It's like it's new to me each time. So yeah, it's oh my god, DMT is the closest thing I could compare it to is like a salvia divinorum experience if you get it to work. It's still way more insane than salvia divinorum, but I would suggest anybody who is thinking about smoking DMT but is intimidated, maybe I would suggest they smoke salvia divinorum first. And with salvia, you hold the lighter on the bowl. You want to smoke it through a water bong, preferably, and you want to smoke it with a really, really hot torch. And you keep the torch on the salvia the whole time. You don't pull the heat off of there as soon as you realize that it's cherried, like you do with weed or something. You want to keep it really hot, hold it down for a really long time. It lasts, it's a lot like DMT. It hits you drastically, and it lasts for like anywhere between 3 and 10 minutes, and then it wears off drastically. It's basically like the salvia divinorum is like the preview to DMT as I see it. But salvia divinorum doesn't take hold of me like that and basically disintegrate me and rebuild me back up. That's basically what DMT does. It's like when you're in the jungle, when you're in the thick of it, it doesn't seem possible that you could possibly go back to normal anytime soon. It's just, it really goes way over my head how you can go that into an experience that drastic and come right back out of it the same way you went into it in a few minutes. Like, you know, acid and shrooms, how they come on slow and they wear off slow. Every other thing that I've done, basically, TMA, mescaline, even dextromethorphan and diphenhydronate, all stuff that I've done, and all stuff that does what you would think it would do, which is come on slow, wear off slow, last a while. So yeah, I basically I think I covered the main points on what I could explain about the prior DMT trip.